Abdul FM 92.9, the station that rocks. Thanks for joining us. If you just joined, our focus today is the implications of extending 2024 budgets to December 2025. You can be a part of the conversation. The numbers to call 0916 31 50,000 or 0705 353 8929. Our guest is Abdul Tijani, Executive Director, Socioeconomic Research and Development Center, SEDEC. Some critics warn that overlapping budgets could lead to confusion, resource misallocation, and weaken public trust. Are these valid concerns?
Of course, these are very, very valid concerns, because at some point we begin to look at what is the execution capacity of the NDA, the team that is even implemented. So we already see a system where they are already overwhelmed with the implementation of one cycle. Because I don't think since Nigeria has been operating the budgeting system, we have a situation where we've had 100% budget execution. So when we already when we're already having this crisis of not completing the execution of the budget, now we are looking at how is it going to be possible for them to even execute two budgets at a time. So these are the challenges, because it's going to create a lot of crisis around fiscal discipline. And most times, these are the risk factors that actually encourage corruption, because when things are done in so much in a hurry, it gives rooms to corruption to thrive.
What kind of strain does this kind of extension place on economic forecasting and planning? And how can policymakers maintain accuracy in such uncertain timelines?
Yeah, so these are the challenges, because a budget is a cycle. So people work around that cycle. Even investors, most businesses are working around that cycle. So when situations like this play out, it disorganizes the whole plan around the economy. And most times you see, if there are situations whereby you see it will encourage more money to be pushed into the economy, and you know what that means. We are already fighting through with the current inflation rates that we are already compounded with, and now we are thinking of pushing in more money, because we are trying to implement the 2024 budget and also trying to implement the 2025 budget. So we are looking at how more monies are going to be pushed into the economy, and you know that can also cause inflation. So these are most of those crises that these things are playing at. And even when it comes to, it affects also a lot of other things, like even employment, because activities are supposed to be done in order to wrap up a certain project is not done, is delayed, and most even payment. If you look at over the past few weeks or even months, you see contractors crying out that most of them have completed their jobs since 2023, 2024. They have not been paid. So this whole thing is affecting the economy, because most of those jobs, they even have to go to financial houses, banks, to collect those money to deliver on those projects. So those are the crises. It also has an impact on the economy, and I think it's important that the lawmakers have a responsibility, not always rushing to agree with the government that okay, we are agree when you request for an extension, we give you an extension. That is not actually what their role should be limited to. Their role should also be part of the process of ensuring that what the bottlenecks that affects budget implementation, that is critical, because most of those bottlenecks include lack of release of funds at the adequate time when funds are not released. Because if you ask what was being done last year that hindered the execution of the 2024 budget, the answers you get at some point is there were funds that were not released. So if funds were not released, and you know the years were running out, and you know that funds were not released, in planning your 2025 budget, you look at what are the projects in 2024 that funds were not released that you wish or hoped to move into the 2025 budget, not moving the entire budget to the next fiscal year. That should not be encouraged. We already have a fiscal a budget system that have over the years grown. We know how the budget system was in Nigeria before. So many interventions, both civil society and development partners interventions that have to perfect the budget process, even if it's not that perfect, but at least it has moved from the way it used to be to, budget used to be shrouded in secrecy. But over the years, the budget process has grown. But the way and manner in which this administration is going around budget, contradicting its budget cycle, will one day lead to most of the crises around the budgeting system. And like I said earlier, before you know, as after if the national government keep doing this, it just about a little time before you see that the state governments begin to do the same thing.
Talking about the 1 year cycle, it was highly celebrated when Buhari decided to do that in his time as president. And now a lot of people argue that this going back on the 1 year cycle can impact greatly on us as a nation. What practical reforms will be needed to make this system more credible and transparent?
See, we don't need any more reforms. What we have already reforms on ground. We have laws. We have the good thing about the last administration was that a lot of fiscal reforms were put in place to ensure fiscal discipline. Even if you look at most of what the Fiscal Responsibility Act says, it talks about how the budget cycle is supposed to run. So it's just about having the government to respect the fiscal laws that are available on ground. We know there are situations that plays out at some point that needs fiscal adjustment when it comes to things like this. But if we do not respect those laws, at the end of the day, if it's possible, I can tell you that before you know, if by December 2025, the 2026 budget is signed into law, which is normally is done the way it is done, like having the 2020 the next year's budget signed before the next year. Yeah. Then we'll be having 3 budgets running in this year. So you can see the whole thing.
What are the dangers of
So these are the dangers, because it's going to be we are going to be looking at what have been budgeted for operations, what are the issues around surplus, what are the issues around the capital. Because most times, if these things are done this way, it creates what a lot of people refer to as a fiscal choke. You understand? Where you have a situation where everybody is doing everything at a time, and it's very difficult for you to get the fiscal value for that thing you are doing, and also to measure the results. Because what are you measuring these results for? Are you measuring the result for 2024 or for 2025 or for 2026? So even when it comes to auditing, it becomes a challenge for the office of the Auditor General when they have to audit those accounts. So if they are going to audit the fiscal year of 2024, then they will have to also pick up some outcomes from the fiscal year of 2025 to input into the fiscal year of 2024, creating more confusion in the whole budgeting system.
All right, Abuja, we want you to be a part of the conversation. What is your thoughts on this issue based on what you've heard from our guest Abdul Tijani this morning? 091631 50,000, or you can call 0705 746 4812. I beg your pardon, 0705 353 8929. That is 0705 353 8929. Let's talk about the citizens now. How can the citizens, civil society, and other stakeholders be effectively involved in shaping a budget that's both responsive and responsible?
All right, so thank you so much. So I think the citizen has a critical role to play. Over the years, like I said, the budget process before now has always been shrouded in secrecy. But there have been a lot of reforms. There have been a lot of policies, programs that have shaped the budget process toward transparency. I recall last week we had the privilege of being part of a town hall meeting organized by the uh, the Minister for Finance, where they also showed some projections around the fiscal year and all that. And I think those things have tried so hard to things like that, having those town hall meetings, making the budget document accessible and available for citizens, has begun over the years to build the confidence of the budgeting system, because citizens are beginning to believe that yes, government wants to be open, and we also have what was referred to as the Open Government Partnership, as the OGP, where government also have signed on to and it has components where we have commitments on budget transparency. So the citizens are working, government and citizens are co-creating ideas and co-implementing activities around driving that commitment around open budgeting and participatory budgeting system. So if citizens are over the years building confidence around the budget process, but this kind of attitude of rolling over budget can only begin to raise suspicion and doubt around how sincere is government around the way it runs its budget cycle. And we citizens also have a right, a responsibility to hold lawmakers accountable in driving this oversight around how these budgets are implemented.
All right. Does the extension of the budget include both the capital project financing and personal costs?
No. What you know, the is a 34 trillion. The 2024 budget is a 34 trillion naira budget, and I think it was the capital the I think 13 trillion expenditure component is what is believed to be rolling over. That's the 13 trillion, over 13 trillion component, capital component that is expected that to be rolled over. So it's not all everything. But however, what we are saying is that most of those key projects that are in the 2024 budget that were not able to implement in 2024, it's easy to bring it into the 2025 budget rather than rolling over the whole budget. It's not a good language for budgeting.
Are there global examples of countries that navigated similar budget challenges successfully? What key lessons can we draw from those countries?
Yeah, so most times budgeting is a culture, and you can't say that you can't say everything is wrong around budgeting, but it's what is preferable is what is convenient, and most times you see budgeting in various forms, in various situations, and most times if you go to some countries, it's communal budgeting they do, where you have people within those communities decide, and this is what we want to spend, like at the communal level, at the municipal level, and it's been uploaded into the national budget and all that. So it's a system. But one thing that I think is unique around democracy is the fact that in a democratic system you have a budget cycle that is annual, that works perfectly within a budget year. So I think that is actually the best practice that Nigeria has adopted, and which I think works better across democracies.
Lessons?
Yeah. So, and most of the lessons about this is that it helps in planning, because we have what is called, aside from the budgeting document, we have what is called the medium-term expedition framework. We have the multi-stakeholder frameworks and all those documents, those fiscal documents, aligns with the budget. So immediately you begin to play around with budgets like this, it also affects the planning in those fiscal documents.
All right. If you were to sit down with the National Assembly and also with the executive, what would you be saying to them as regards this discussion separately?
So, first of all, like I said, the current situation undermines the constitutional frameworks of the budget. You know, they are the National Assembly, they are the one in charge of laws, and they know that yes, they have to protect the constitution. So the current situation, it undermines the constitutional framework. So they need to see how they can also ensure that this does not repeat. So we cannot have a 12-month budget for 24 months. So this kind of way of doing budgeting needs to stop. Then we also look at the National Assembly has to improve in its oversight function to enhance that there is fiscal discipline across the MDAs and all that.
Well, thank you very much. We have been speaking with Mr. Abdul Tijani, Executive Director, Socioeconomic Research and Development Center, SEDEC. Thank you for being a part of the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right, we'll see you next year. We hope that this time it's a 1 year cycle.
Yeah. We are hoping that we don't have 3 budgets this year. That is just, we don't have three budgets signed and being activated for us in the country this year.
We hope so. Abuja, this is where we will leave it for today. It's been an interesting conversation from 5:30 a.m. up until this time. We leave you with this quote by Benjamin Franklin. He says, "By failing to prepare, you prepare to fail." May it inspire the policymakers, planners, and even citizens to value careful planning and disciplined budgeting as the foundation of Nigeria's progress. This is a production of Ebere Chiundulewe Anyanwu and Galton Energy, supervised by Ruth Fasasi Bello. Thanks to the multimedia and engineering units. Mado is right here doing what she knows how to do best. My name is Ben Dodo Oche. I see you on Wednesday, by the grace of God. Abuja. Bye for now.